Hi, this is Kylie Koo. Welcome to my studio. So do you ever walk up to your work table and just see a pile like this? Well, this is what faces me this morning. Now, these are plastic product tags of some garden obelisks that I bought recently. And when I see something like this, I end up kind of leaving it on my table thinking I might use it, I might not use it. I came in here this morning and I thought, oh, I'm just going to put these into the recycling. I'm not going to do anything with them. I've got so many bits and pieces like this, it's just going to add to the clutter. So I looked at the back and there is no recycling sign on it, which I think would mean that these can't be recycled. So I thought, I don't want this just to go into landfill, so today I'm going to do something with it. So keep watching and you'll see what I do. Now, if you're in the Mixed Media Emporium Facebook group, we're into May has 5 Sundays in it, so this is week 5, and Nina and I have decided that this week we'll make it a wild card week. So you can do any project you want. You could go back to a previous prompt if you wanted to do that, or you can do your own thing. Just make sure to say May week 5 wild card. But the thing is, this is not a prompt that can be revisited unless we decide to do another wild card at some time. So if you want to make the most of it, this is your week to do so. Right, let's get started. So I've got here these 2 tags. I don't know if I'll get them both done or not. I've got various scraps here, bits and pieces left over. I've got my distressed papers, various types that I've done in my kind of little mini series. Somebody asked me how I organise these. This is it. This is the organisation. I know, it's not great, but one of these days I'll get round to organising everything. So I'm not sure what I would actually do with these. Part of me thinks it could go into a journal. It obviously has this little hole at the top, goes round like that. So it could actually be something that's used for hanging. I might keep one with this bit on, and I might cut one off because I did think if it was going to be a hanging thing, then decorate both sides. I did think this could be used as a kind of frontispiece on a journal. So I'll do both sides on it, but maybe only decorate one side and maybe try and fill this hole in, I'm not sure. Anyway, I'll clear this a little bit and then I'll be back. And I'll change to editing mode now. Okay, so just to give you the size of these, they're 4 inches in diameter, just over 10 centimetres. And in the end, I actually just decided to cut both these bits off. I thought they were just going to, the way they were springing up, they were just going to cause more problem than anything. So I've put them off to the side and I'll probably use them in another project at a future date. So I did think about sanding these down a bit so that the paint would sit better on top, but in the end, I do what I've done before, and that is to actually glue some tissue paper to it, and then I'll be able to paint or whatever on top of that. I'm just using some gel matte medium for this. It's an expensive way to glue things down. I could have used PVA glue, but this is what I have to hand. It's the kind of product that I go to for so many things. So, at this point, just trying to make sure that the tissue paper and the plastic tag are well bonded together. On the other side, I'm going to do much the same, except I'm simply going to fold the paper over and just let it be folded on top of itself, and it will add a bit of texture to this. At this point, I'm not entirely certain where I'm going with it. I just know that I need to get it prepped before I do anything else. So you see there, some bits thicker than others, and that's absolutely fine. So I've covered both now, and I'm just going to fill in a couple of little gaps just using the same gel matte medium and just some smaller pieces of the tissue. And this will mean that I can work directly on top of this. I will glue it, I will dry it a little bit though, because obviously the tissue paper is quite thick in places. So I'm just taking some of my collage papers that I made as part of the series, and I'm just going to glue a few of these down, just tearing them down into some smaller pieces. I could have simply put a paint layer on at this stage, but I just thought this would create a bit of background interest. Doesn't matter that some hang over the edge a little bit, I will deal with that later on. So just going to get some good coverage here. It doesn't matter if every single piece is covered. Again, just using the palette knife to make sure that everything is well adhered. So just going back and forward with those bits, and I will go on and do the other one in just a moment. And I'm just doing this on the one side. Now that both are done, I will give them a quick blast with the heat tool. I've gone into my resource folder and pulled out this piece of paper that I had obviously done some gel printing on or something, but it's really a scrap piece, and all I'm going to do is to glue both of these down to that piece of paper, and this will cover the other side. So a nice quick way to get that done. This paper's quite a thick piece of paper, so it will actually add a bit of strength to the tag. The tags they're flexible but strong enough, but this will certainly make them just that bit thicker. So just trying to centre them a little bit so that I mainly get the brown on it. Sorry, I'm tripping over my words today. And again, I'll just look to smooth that out and make sure it's fully bonded, and I'll leave it just for 2-3 minutes just to give it a chance to settle. And now I'm just going to very roughly cut them out. This will cut off some of the excess that was there from my first bit of collaging, but I'm not looking to make perfect circles here. In fact, if anything, I'm looking to make them a little bit uneven. So just taking my brayer, taking that over it, just to simply, again, try and add some pressure to get it fully bonded. Now using some quinacridone nickel azo gold just to add a bit of colour to it, and this is one of my kind of favourite colours of paint. This is a fluid acrylic, so it's going to give a little bit of transparency so that I can see some of the background papers there. I just added a little bit of water just to spread it out a bit, and I will also add it to the back, and it just lifts that colour that was on the back. So again, I will dry that off and then I'll very quickly do the other side. And there we go. I just prefer the other side with that added to it. I've put it on quite thick, but that's fine. And again, I will dry that off for a moment or two. So now what I want to do is to start to collage around the edges, and I'm going to do this in a way that it will cover both the front and the back here. So I just take my gel matte medium and go right round this, because it's quite small, so you know I can get it done quite quickly. So of course these could be done as artist trading coins. These are just a little bit bigger than those, but quite a nice size to work with. So I'm just tearing up all my little pieces of paper, And if this reminds you of something, then it's probably the piece of art I did a couple of weeks ago, and I'll insert a photo of that in just a minute, and also the link to it above and below. And I guess this is one of those things where I maybe started off thinking I was going to do one thing, and it kind of goes in the direction of that previous project. It does turn out differently, but I think I'd enjoyed that project so much that when I started this, I thought, I know where this is going now. So that was the one from a couple of weeks ago. So now that I've got my collage on the one side, I'm going to do the exact same on the other side, but just fold the pieces of collage over. So I'm putting my glue all the way around, and then all I'll do is to start to fold them over. And I'm going to get them as tight as possible. There will be little bits that will stick up a bit. You know, these are not necessarily going to be perfectly rounded with the actual kind of disc itself, but that's okay because I'll show you how I deal with that later on. So here I have one of PM Artist Studios butterfly masks. This is one of the perfectly imperfect ones, and I've chosen this because last time I used a dragonfly, but this butterfly was just the perfect size for these. And I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to take the texture paste and pop it through the mask and over the edges of the mask. Now, as I'm dithering here, the texture paste starts to drop off, but that's okay, I can easily pick that up. So this is a texture paste by Pabio, and in fact it's got sand in it. And yeah, I'd bought this a while ago and only used it a couple of times in the past, and yeah, it was okay, but I don't know, I'm really enjoying working with it now. I think it sometimes just depends with some projects or products, just the projects that you're working on. But for me, for these, it just seems to give me what I want. So making sure it gets into all the little nooks and crannies of the butterfly mask, and then I'm taking it right outside the mask to make sure that I can get the impression of the wings. Someone asked me about the difference between stencils and masks. So a stencil, I would be able to see the entire shape of the butterfly if I just stamped through the stencil, whereas with the mask you need to do it in a different way so that you get the outside edges. There's different ways to use these. I'm just particularly enjoying using this in this way, and again, it's, to my mind, turned out well. So I kind of wish that I'd cleaned it off here because there was some kind of sticking underneath, but I didn't do that, and I don't think this one comes out quite as clear as the first one. But you know, it's lessons learned. We always realise what works well, what works less well, and I will do it differently next time. But I do like the way this one turns out as well. It's just, as I say, the impression is not quite as clear as the first one. I'd also do this one a little bit thicker. I'm just quite keen to see how the texture paste reacts if it is a bit thicker. So it looks quite smooth there, but it is kind of bumpy in places because it's also, you know, it's got the sand in it, so it's going to be textured anyway, but I don't try to get it absolutely smooth. Now immediately I wipe off the texture paste and go and wash my mask, just using the oil there just to make sure that I've got the little feeler there. Actually, when I see that there, it is clear, and I think it's what I do later on that perhaps makes it slightly less clear. Now this stuff I can't put back in the tube, so I'm just putting it down and onto that piece of deli paper, and again that will go into the pile of collage. So using the heat tool to dry these off as much as possible, but I did leave them a bit. Now to start on the more detailed work at this point. So I'm going to use this Pearl Chartreuse paint by Arteza, and what I'm going to do is just use my finger and apply the paint to the texture paste, just to help it stand out a bit more and to allow the detail of the butterfly to show through by way of the background that's actually left. So just going to cover all of that, the stuff to the outside of the wings, but also on the wings itself. Now this is the sort of thing you could actually do the wings in a different colour and the surrounding area in another colour, but I've just gone with this one colour. I'm trying to work it into the texture, you know, because it's not just going to sit on top of it. I do need to try and work it in just a little bit. And I really like the colour of this paint, and I think it's gone well with this. But of course, there's still more to be done. So now going to the next one, and with this one I decide to use a turquoise. These two paints are part of a set by Arteza that are metallic paints. And I'm just going to do the same here. Now I realise I keep calling it texture paste. It is in fact called texture gel, and this one is the white sand texture gel. So again, I'm liking this turquoise colour, and it's standing out quite well. As I say, I don't think I got this one quite as clear as the other, but it's fine. I still like it. So doing the exact same, trying to get plenty of the paint on and to get it to go down and into the texture gel a bit more. So I just want to say now, I am dreadfully behind in answering comments. I've just got a lot on my plate just now. I do read them, I try and catch up with them every night, but I don't always have time to respond to them. But I will be trying to do a big catch up very soon, and I honestly appreciate all the comments that are left. So thanks ever so much for that, really appreciate it. So what I'm now going to do is to use this gold paint, again by Arteza, just the ones that I've pulled out today, and I'm going to use some of this to go round the edges. So this will do two things. It will take away any of the unevenness where there's little bits of paper kind of sticking up, at least it disguises it a little bit, and it'll also help kind of frame the entire thing. I don't know why, I just always think that border around something looks really good. I left it to the side to let the front dry, and now I'm going round the back doing the exact same thing. Now this itself looks uneven, but I think that's okay to do it. I'm now going to use this Caribbean Mist, which is the Colour Art powder again. I know a number of you said you couldn't find the powder that I used on my Dragonfly one. I think brushes would act in the same way. This blue one doesn't seem to have the number of different colours that the autumn one had, but it's still nice. So I put it on both. I just wanted to add a little bit more to the background, so I did apply it to both. I think maybe in hindsight it kind of means that the turquoise one here doesn't stand out quite as much now. You know, the butterfly doesn't stand out quite as much, but certainly with the one in the chartreuse it does look really good. But again, I like both of these for different reasons, because I do like turquoise a lot. So, you know, just putting it on, dabbing it around with my paintbrush to make sure that the powder has, oh, I want to say melted, dissolved, but also just to spread it around a bit, and it does have a lovely kind of shimmer to it. And of course that also helps to blend in those little collage papers around the edge. It just helps unify them. So I'm now going to take this burnt umber fluid acrylic, and I'm just going to add some water to it, and basically I'm just going to use this to change the background or the back of the piece just a little bit. It will also help, and sorry that's slightly off because I was zoomed in, I've kind of gone down into that bottom corner, but really it just helps blend the papers together, it helps unify them, and it's just changing that background colour on there just a little bit. But we'll have a closer look at them in just a moment. So I'm leaving them as is on the back here. You know, this is where I could sign it. I could punch a hole in it and this could be a hanging, or I've still got the option to stick it into a journal, or indeed on the front of a journal, or just keep them as is. So let's take a bit of a closer look at the two of them. And here we go, and I will leave a still image at the end, and I just love the texture on them. I do like these colours very much, and I think I'll be doing these again. I'd quite like to make a few of these. And to me it was a good way to recycle, to upcycle those tags that at best would have gone back into the recycling, but I think more likely into landfill because they weren't suitable for recycling, which is a shame. So I like the way they look on the back as well. So that's it for this week. I do hope that you've enjoyed this. I will leave the link to the previous video, and I'll leave a link to PM Artist Studio, who kindly gave me their imperfectly perfects. Yeah, so thanks so much for watching. Do take care. Bye for now.